able to host today's session. It's a solution showcase focused on Dynamics 365 for finance and operations and for Dynamics AX. We have a really nice and interesting, I would say, lineup of presenters that I'm excited to get to, and we'll be getting to them in just a moment here. I want to take care of just a bit of housekeeping first. So today's session is a chance to get educated on really a range of different solutions that you may or may not be familiar with already, to ask questions to our presenters and generally broaden your understanding of what they have to offer and how it can enrich your or your client's Dynamics 365 or Dynamics AX solution. And what's great about today's event is that we'll be hitting so many of the really key capabilities that so many companies need. The presentations are each going to be 12 minutes long. We encourage you to ask questions throughout the event, and we will get to as many as we can at the end after all our presenters have done their thing. Look for the Q&A block to the right of the main presentation area. That's where you will enter your questions, and that's where we'll be able to save those and hold on to them and make sure we get them all answered at the end. If you don't see the Q&A, please look for the question mark icon in the upper right, and that should enable it for you. So without any further delay, we are going to get started here. Here you see our presenters from Avalara, Fastpath, Data Masons, and Experlogix. It's great to have all four of our presenters with us here. And we're going to start with Kate Kenny from Avalara. Kate, welcome, and thanks for joining. I'm going to make you the presenter, and we can take it from there.
Hey, thanks, Jason. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen here. And Jason, if you could just let me know we can see it, that'd be great.
It's up now.
Okay, great. So so as Jason mentioned, good morning, good afternoon for those joining on the East Coast. I'm the product manager for the Dynamics integrations with the Avalara suite of products. I'm going to give you a quick demo of our integration points with Dynamics 365 for finance and operations today. But before we dig into that, I'm going to give you a brief overview of Avalara and our tax compliance offerings. So Avalara has significant experience in sales tax. We've been a cloud-based solution for 18 years, and we have over 20,000 customers. We integrate with over 600 e-commerce, billing, order management, and retail systems. That includes, obviously, the Microsoft Dynamics suite of solutions. So if you're using another platform, you can also be fully integrated with Avatax through those. We've proven our ability to deliver customer success. We process about 5 billion transactions per year and 25 million managed exemption certificates, and of course 18 billion in remitted sales tax every year. So the Avalara Sales Tax Suite provides 3 solutions, end-to-end tax compliance. So we're going to talk about Avatax today. Avatax determines and calculates sales tax within your Dynamics 365 solution. And this happens all in the cloud. It happens at the point in your business processes when tax calculation is needed. So for example, invoicing, e-commerce checkout, and tax is just calculated, making a call to the Avatax solution directly within your normal standard business processes. Avatax looks at the transaction information and determines your taxes and returns that to your source system as well for both reporting as well as appearance on your invoices. And Avalara is constantly monitoring and updating tax rates, rules, boundaries to make this completely compliant. Cert Capture is another solution that we offer, and this manages your exemption certificates. So exemption certificates, they're required from your customers when they make purchases from you, tax exempt. For example, if they're buying your product for resale or if they're a government entity, we can store that exemption certificate directly in our document management solution. It also allows you to manage your certificates, the images, and the data so that you have control over your documents. And there's workflows built in to manage certificate requests via email so that your customers can simply click a link to go ahead and submit their certificate information online. And of course, the cert capture is integrated fully with Avatax, so that as you're making tax calculations within Avatax, if the customer has an exemption certificate, it will automatically exempt that transaction from sales tax. Within Dynamics 365, there's also the ability to stay in sync with your customer master data. So cert capture is designed to pull customer data from your systems like Dynamics 365. And the final thing that I want to talk real quick about is our return solution. So returns allows us to manage and prepare your filing of your tax returns. So when it's time to file, you just simply review your liability report based on the transactions you've processed in your source systems, and you approve that liability. Once you approve that liability, returns team will prepare and file your tax returns and submit your payments to the appropriate jurisdictions. So you essentially remit to us the full tax amount, and then we allocate that to the appropriate jurisdictions on your behalf. And of course, Avalara is constantly monitoring and updating the filing rules and the forms in order to make this the most compliant solution for your needs. So there's really three pillars that Avalara value proposition rests on. Accuracy, so reducing risk and automating compliance. Being efficient, so saving time and lowering your costs. And then, of course, being fully integrated to work with your systems and deploy quickly without business process disruption. So why do companies outsource tax compliance? Well, manual sales tax compliance is time-consuming and expensive. And even after you spend that time and money, most of the time, auditors will still find errors. So we're spending a lot of money on compliance, but not reducing our risk. Auditors still find about 25% of mistakes with manual sales tax calculation. And doing sales tax compliance in-house makes as much sense as doing payroll in-house. As you do your payroll, typically that's outsourced. You can outsource your tax compliance. And just a quick quote for you. Of course, any effort spent on sales and use tax compliance and related activities are non-revenue generating. So Avalara lets you focus on your business instead of focusing on compliance. So we've been a Microsoft partner since 2004, and we have over 800 customers using our Dynamics connectors. We integrate obviously with the Dynamics 365 cloud solution, so Business Central, Finance and Operations, CRM, and Dynamics 365 for Sales. But we also work with other ISVs to bring together Avalara's tax solution with other partner solutions. And of course, we're certified for Microsoft Dynamics Nav. And we're actually certified, we have dual certifications, so we also are a Avalara certified solution. So similarly, if a partner builds an integration to Avalara, they go through a certification program. And of course, we do the same for our own in-house connectors that we build. So I'm going to go ahead and show you a little bit about our Dynamics 365 solution. The first thing I want to tell you is that when you set up your Avalara system, the first thing you need to do is tell us your company structure. And then within that company structure, you're going to tell us where you're required to collect and remit sales tax. So you can see this company here has been set up, and it's required to collect in these 5 states as well as the United Kingdom. Within Dynamics 365, you can see that Avalara Avatax is a module within the solution. So there's really a lot of configuration settings here, but I want to let you know that the setup, we make it very simple for you through the Setup Assistant. Now this company's already been set up, so I'm going to show you a little bit about the configuration settings, and then we're going to go ahead and talk about the features within the solution. So as you can see here, this particular environment is hooked up to an Avalara account. And that Avalara account shows up right here in the Avatax environment. We have some general settings. Obviously, we have tax calculation settings. In addition to tax calculation, Dynamics 365 connector to AvaTax also performs address validation functionality. We have some consumer use tax functionality for your purchase invoices. And then, of course, we integrate with the project module to be able to calculate sales tax on your projects. So I'm going to start with a customer record. And what we're going to do is validate an address on a customer. Now, address validation can be done on customers, vendors, and as well your own locations to assure that you have accurate tax jurisdictions associated with your customers, as well as vendors and your service. So when you click on an address within the customer record, you can see that there's a new feature here with our logo that says address validation. When you click on that button, you get a validated address. So you can see that the input address here was entered in without an avenue, and as well, it was entered with the incorrect zip code. So Avalara AvaTax, in that instant, went out, made a call to the service, and validated the address and corrected it. You can either choose to accept the validated address, or if you close it, it will not update your customer record. So I'm going to go ahead and accept this address. I'm going to say OK, and you can see here that it did update this address. Now let's enter an order. So I'm going to use that same customer, and I'm going to create an order for them. So as you can see, just like before, we're not interacting at all with, we're not making any changes to your standard business process. So I'm going to go ahead and select the item that I want to sell to this customer. And I'm going to charge them $1,000 for this Surface Pro, but I'm going to give them a discount of $100. What you can see here is that when I hit the totals button, it's going to make a call to AvaTax, and it's going to bring back that sales tax calculation. So it's putting it into the native tax fields. In addition, when you print the sales order to be presented to your customer, it will show up in the standard sales tax fields there. You can also view the details of your sales tax by looking in the sales tax section, and you can see that we break down the jurisdictional information within the Dynamics 365 environment. So once again, we don't interact or we don't disrupt any of your standard business processes. So I'm going to go ahead and pick, pack, and ship this product to this customer, just like I normally would. And then when that's completed, I can go ahead and invoice this customer. When I invoice this customer, the system is doing two things. Now, this is a true financial transaction at this point. So we are actually posting this invoice within the Dynamics 365 environment, but we're also posting this invoice within AvaTax. And this allows us to be able to see the transaction directly within the system. So you can see here that I have my invoice 725 for $69.75. And then, of course, within here, I can see my invoice journal, as well as my posted sales tax. So that's a little bit about the AvaTax integration. I hope that was helpful to you, and I look forward to talking to you more about our integration. So Jason, I'll pass it back to you.
Great, thank you, Kate. And our next presenter is going to be Alex Meyer from Fastpath. Alex, I am transferring control over to you.
All right, thanks, Jason. So we're going to be looking today at the Fastpath solution. Fastpath provides security, audit, and compliance reporting solutions around your ERP or CRM solution. And today, specifically, we're going to be looking at Dynamics 365 for finance and operations. My name is Alex Meyer. I'm the Director of Dynamics AX and 365 FO development at Fastpath. My email is there at the bottom. If you guys have any questions after, please feel free to reach out. So a little bit about Fastpath itself. We were founded in 2004. Our staff includes CPAs and CIAs, and the reason that's important is because we always tell our clients that our product is built by auditors for auditors. And so, we have a number of different audit partners that we get ideas and feature sets from, as well as our internal audit team and our customers themselves. Speaking of our customers, we have 1,000 customers across 30 countries, and Fastpath works across multiple ERP and CRM platforms. And so today we're looking specifically at Dynamics 365 for finance and operations, but we go across that Dynamics suite as well as other clients or other ERP and CRM solutions. And our platform sits outside of all of these systems, and we basically create connection points into each of the individual systems themselves. So the Fastpath solution is looking to answer 3 critical questions. We're looking to answer for our clients. We're looking to say who has access to your system, what did they do with that access, and then where are you vulnerable, or where do you have segregation of duties issues that may come up in an audit, either internal or external. We have a number of different solutions that we offer. Today we're going to be looking at the Assurance Security Designer pieces, but we have our Assure piece, which does the security analysis and segregation of duties. Our Audit Trail, which is that continuous monitoring piece where we're tracking changes within the system. Our Identity Manager piece, where we're looking at compliant user provisioning and modification with a workflow around the backside. And then the Security Designer piece, where we're looking at making modifications to your actual security from Fastpath itself, seeing the potential segregation of duties issues that could arise from that, and licensing changes that could arise from those security changes before they actually get pushed live into your Dynamics 365 for finance and operations system. So those are the modules that we offer. So we'll go ahead and jump into a demo here. So within our Fastpath solution, currently we're looking at the Fastpath solution that's hooked up to a Dynamics 365 for finance and operations environment, and we've already created the connection through a deployable package to that actual environment. So the first report that we're going to run is a user access report, just to kind of show where users have access within your environment. We have some pre-filtering that you can do by company, by a particular user, by an object type, so you can see all the different object types from within D365, and you can actually go down to the object level as well if you would like to. If you go ahead and run this report, what this is actually doing is it's going out and saying, okay, based on all the roles that the Alicia user is assigned, show me all the menu item displays that she has access to within the Contoso Consulting Company. And so you're able to see down below here that we have that she has access to a 1089 software vendor object. You can see the label and the AOT name. And if we were to scroll over a little bit here, you can see she has read access to that particular object. If you go ahead and click on that row, over here on the right-hand side, you're going to be able to see the roles, duties, and privileges, how the user is getting that access. So you can see that because she's assigned the budget clerk role, that's how the user is getting particular access to this object, as well as the other duty and privilege hierarchy of that access. So you can see not only what objects the user has access to, but how the user is getting that access as well, which roles, duties, and privileges are giving the user that particular access. So this user access report is great from a comprehensive perspective to show everywhere that a user has access to the environment. So if we take this data that we're looking at here and we jump over to our segregation of duties piece, this is actually taking it a step further now and saying, okay, now we want to see where there could be potential segregation of duties conflicts. So with the purchase of the Assure tools, you get an out-of-the-box rule set from Fastpath developed by our internal audit team. There are 96 different rules out of the box, and it's basically different processes or transaction or features that you'd be using within D365 that a user shouldn't be able to do both sides of these transactions by themselves without any other user input. This listing, like I said, comes out of the box from Fastpath, but you can then modify it, make changes to it however you would like. But for example, you shouldn't be able to edit or modify bank accounts and journal lines if you're the same user within the environment. Each conflict comes with a description of the conflict of why this is a particular conflict in your environment, risk level tied to it, and then you can enable and disable conflicts as well. So if we take this conflict listing, obviously the next reports that you would like to run are showing where these conflicts exist within your environment. And that's exactly what the user conflicts reports allow you to do. So the user conflict report, again, we have some pre-filtering that we can do, but if we want to use that Alicia user again that we used previously, we can go ahead and run this report. And what this has done is it's taking all of the access review user access data that we looked at earlier for the Alicia user, ran it against that rule set and saying where do these overlap and where does this user actually have conflicts based on our current rule set. So you can see here the user has access to edit or modify items and purchase order lines, and that's considered a conflict based on the rule set. We can see a description of the conflict, the risk level tied to it, and the company that this access exists in. If you go ahead and click on this particular row, over here on the right-hand side, you're going to be able to get all of the information from a role, duty, and privilege perspective to show how the user is getting this access and what's actually causing the conflict. So in this case, because the user is assigned buying agent and purchasing agent roles, that's actually, those two roles in combination are actually what are causing this particular conflict. So when you look at this report, there are a number of different things you could do. You could go back into Dynamics 365 and actually change the user to role or the role duty privilege assignment so the user no longer has access to one or more of the roles that are causing the conflict. Or you may come in and say, hey, we know the user has this access, we know it's causing this conflict, but we want to provide a mitigating control for that. And so that's what the status column is. The status column is the status of the user mitigation. If we open up this mitigate conflict window, we can actually provide a mitigating control for this particular the user conflict as we see it. So in this case, at the top here, you can see information about the conflict itself. You're able to see in the middle here any history about the conflict. If I were to open this up, you'd be able to see any history of that. Then here at the bottom, you're able to actually provide information about how this is or the controls you're going to apply to this particular user conflict. In this case, we have dual approvals and transaction sampling are the two controls that we'd like to add. We have a controls library that you can either upload or create your own controls, and you can use those to actually mitigate your particular conflict. We give you that ability to actually do all of the mitigations for the user conflicts in place here. The reason we show you those two pieces are because when we jump to the security designer piece next here, the security designer actually uses the access reviews and segregation duties piece to actually perform its tasks. So if we jump over to the security designer, this is actually where we're looking to say, hey, we want to create, edit, or modify security within D365, but we want to make sure that we're following compliant segregation duties and make sure we're not creating any new segregation duties issues, as well as changing our licensing. And so the idea with the security designer is you have these idea of what we call our models or security models, where you can actually make changes within Fastpath that don't affect D365 until you actually publish those changes. So I have a security model here called demo. If we open this up, you're able to see it makes a live call into D365, pulls all of your roles down in this case, and then it also will grab all of the duties, privileges, tables, and sub-roles that those roles are applied. You could also do this at a duty or privilege level as well. And then at this point, you can start making modifications to this particular role. So if you wanted to go in and change the duties that were assigned to this role, you could come in, it would open up a window here where you can see all duties in the system. You can see the currently assigned duties to this particular role, and you can see the ones that are modified. So in this case, I removed a large number of duties from this particular role, but you can see all of that in this one dialog here. So that's showing you the difference in the associations. You can also do this from the tables, or if we go down to an object level, this is where you can actually make changes to your CRUD operations for a particular object. So if I wanted to make changes to the accountant BR, I could go table here, and I wanted to assign that directly to the role, I could do that from that perspective. You also have the ability to create new roles, duties, or privileges, or clone any of the out-of-the-box roles, duties, and privileges, and then make modifications to that. So if you jump back to the security model screen, once you start going through and making changes, you can click the changes button here, which is actually going to go out and see what actual changes are being done within this particular security model. And in this case, you can see we're removing a whole bunch of duties from a particular that accountant role. And then the final piece, and then the next step of this is actually running the risk analysis. And the risk analysis is actually going to go out and say, I want to see before and after of the changes that I made, based on the changes that I made to that security model, what did I change from my risk perspective, both from a role in the user side as well as the licensing from a role in the user side. So I'm able to see all those changes. I can see anything that I added or removed from a conflicts perspective, as well as the changes I made to the licensing. And then once you're all set with that, the risk analysis side, you can then obviously publish these changes out into D365, and they actually go live within the system there. So with that, I'll go ahead and hand it back to Jason. And I hope you guys, thanks again for joining the call here today.
All right, thank you, Alex. Next, I'm going to hand things off to Dennis Bruce of Data Masons. And Dennis, you should now have control.
Yep, all set. All right. Good morning to everybody. Thanks for the time today. My name is Dennis Bruce. I'm with Data Masons. Today I'll talk to you a little about what we do, which is an EDI e-commerce integration solution for the Dynamics platform, in this case Dynamics 365 or X. And we refer to this Vantage Point EDI for Dynamics 365 and AX. So on the screen here, this is kind of typically what you see from your supply chain perspective, whether you're a customer on here or if you're a Dynamics partner, you'll see this when working with your customers. This is their supply chain. So if you look at the left side of the screen, they have people out there, customers, suppliers, third-party logistics providers, brokers, vendors, factoring with banks or financial institutions. All these types of companies within the supply chain, they support EDI. They want to do business electronically with you. They don't want to be rekeying data all day long. So they require you to do that. Vantage Point can sit between yourselves, your ERP platform, and your supply chain, and integrate that data back and forth. We can take data, we can put it into D365 or X, we can take it out and send it back to them. And again, we can do that in their formats through the communication methods that they require. So we act as that bridge where we deal with all the nuances of what your trading partners require, but then turn around and normalize that data as we send it in and out of the Dynamics platform. From an AX perspective, we leverage the AIF and SQL views for our integration in and out. And when you go to D365, we'll leverage the RESTful Web Services, OData endpoints, and with data entities that both Microsoft have built and we have built also, we'll also include the DIXF support. So it's really a single platform to transform any data format that you're getting from these partners, and we can integrate them into D365 or AX. Some of the advantages of this, one of the advantages we have is we do not customize your platform. Think about this. Your trading partners pretty much dictate to you how you do business with them, what it looks like, when you do it. If we go in and start customizing for your partner's requirements, it doesn't end because the next partner wants something different and the next partner wants something different after that. So we don't have to customize. We deal with all that craziness before we pass data back and forth. It's a simple configuration process. We're not building this stuff as we go along. It's very cost effective, so we don't charge document fees from our solution perspective. So a lot more trading partners are allowing you to connect directly to bypass any communication costs. We can put you in that position to take advantage of that. You can migrate from any other platform. You want to go to D365 from AX, from GP, from NAV, Vantage Point works with all those platforms, certified with all those platforms, and we can get you migrated up. We have full automation with the product. We'll talk a little about that because I want to show you what automation looks like. But you can automate the entire process to put you in more of a management by exception mode, where you just manage those exceptions along the way, trusting that those transactions are being processed, and you'll be notified of that when it does happen. There's over 72 integrations from a document perspective that we support. We have a full managed service option as well. So we can actually, you can outsource your day-to-day EDI processing to us, where we'll take over your system. We will do the processing of the transactions, look into errors, deal with the trading partners, become your EDI coordinator internally. If you do not think that EDI is a core competency to you, but you have to do it with your trading partners, we can take that over. So you can use somebody who not only knows Vantage Point, knows EDI, but also knows Dynamics and work with your internal system. Okay? We're flexible on how we deploy, whether you want to license all the maps that you need or if you want to do your own mapping yourself. And just as importantly, we have people not only from a experience level in D365 and AX, but also from an industry perspective. And we'll talk a little about that in a bit because there are certain nuances when it comes to specific industries. So let me go into the product itself. So this is Vantage Point, and this is the dashboard as you come into the Vantage Point product. And if you take a look at this, the one thing I will tell you is if we do our job properly, you'll never be back in the screen again, because we want to be able to set this up to run automatically and have you be looking at your transactions while you're in D365 or AX. But while we're in the screen, we'll look at a couple of things. As you can see, we have some charts down below. But across the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see quote to cash, procure to pay. These are specific processes that you'll get into with your trading partners, and we can mimic those processes so you can go step by step. So if somebody had to replace you one day and you asked them to go ahead and process some transactions, they would just have to follow each of the steps to process a purchase order within your internal system. Okay? We get into logistics, as we talked about, automotive, which is a whole different side of EDI. They have all their own specific documents and processes. Again, these are all laid out step by step that you can get into, or you can create favorites. So while you don't have to deal with any of that, you can just do the favorites and then have every single process that you do on a day-to-day basis, including lookups if you wanted to, inquiries of documents either received or sent. You can look those up. So again, this is the Vantage Point screen, but we don't want you in here. So we want you to be able to set things up to run in an automated fashion. So to do that, I have to, just bear with me one second. Let me just take this down a little bit so I can see. Here we go. So if you go here, you'll see it says scheduler client. I'll launch that, and this brings up the scheduler. So this is our workflow scheduler, and these workflows mimic specific processes with your transactions. And a workflow can be made up of tasks, you see here, and run on specific schedules. So if we go into a simple workflow like a purchase order inbound, we'll go into the thing, and as you'll see, there are specific tasks that I can launch in this workflow, okay? So I can download it from the network, I can send it to D365, and at the same time send a purchase order report in an SSRS format to anybody within your organization. And as you see over here, from a scheduling perspective, I can run this at any interval I want, whether I want to do it every minute, every odd minute, every 10 minutes, twice a day, once a day. It's completely up to you. So you can run EDI and process your transactions at whatever you want, okay? So cancel out of here. So again, once we have these all set up, that can run by your trading partner, by specific document type, however you decide that you want to do that, then from there you can launch and go into and do all your work within D365. And the same thing with AX, so this can work with either one of those. All right, so if I went in and I wanted to see what it looked like from a day-to-day perspective, if I go into my sales orders, let's just say I'm doing customer EDI, okay? I can go into the sales order, and let me pull this up, and you can see I've added this little button here. It's called the EDI TLE, which stands for Transaction Lifecycle Explorer, which means I can look at a transaction and every document that's tied to the sales order. So here I have it filtered on target. So these are all, so this was my initial purchase order that came in, and as you can see, I've got I can take a look at it if I want to right from the screen. So if I want to see what this data looks like, here it is, right, in a nice report format. And if you're into EDI, you'll see the specific elements that it get tied to, okay? Let me go back. Oops. Sorry about that. And then, you can see the corresponding purchase order acknowledgement that went back out in an ASN. But I know there are other transactions that are tied to this because I have a filter on. So I can look at all the partners that are tied to this transaction. So in this case, what you see is, hey, I did my purchase order. I sent back the purchase order acknowledgement, but then I went ahead and sent my warehouse order. Okay, so I have fulfillment that's being done outside my building with a third-party logistics provider. That transaction is actually tied to the life cycle of this specific total transaction here. Okay, and then you can see the ASNs that go back out, which is an 856. And then in some cases, I have to send. Not only do I send an invoice here, but I have to send a copy of the invoice to somebody else. Maybe I'm factoring my receivables. Maybe I'm dealing with a broker. In the food industry, it's very common to deal with brokers. You have to send them copies of the invoices that you're invoicing the particular end customers. So as you can see, not only do I can see every single transaction, not just with Target, but everything that was tied to this particular transaction per se, even if it's other trading partners. I can look at the reports. I can look at the raw data. If I ever wanted to look at raw data from an EDI perspective, you could do it from the screen. And then error logs, I can look at the status. Did I get a functional acknowledgement? So it's all tied together where you just have to be in D365 and you're not required to be in the application itself. Once you have this thing set up to run on a schedule, you have it completely under your control, you'll be notified of all cases of when things are happening properly and not processing properly. Okay? So if we go back, we talked about industries, and industries are important because there are some industries that don't want to talk about purchase orders and invoices. They want to talk about other things. So in this case, but on the consumer packaged good perspective, we support all the major retailers in the world. We have compliance, label, and packaging. There's a lot of drop ships now that happen in the world of EDI, so we're a very strong solution from a drop ship perspective. We deal with third-party logistics providers that are out there, as you saw with the warehouse document order. We can handle Amazon fulfillment, not just Amazon, but also FBA, right, which is a whole web service piece that they do. And then we can also provide integration for Shopify, Magento, amongst other e-commerce sites. Food and manufacturing distribution, if you get into direct store delivery, VMI, vendor managed inventory, substitution is very big in the world when you deal with growers, brokers, iTrade support, returnable pallets. Sometimes you'll hear about a CHEP 856. That's a company that does returnable pallets. So all those industries, and again, automotive has a completely different EDI. So forecast and release, ASNs, line sequencing, that's what those guys want to talk about. Pharma the same way. They do a lot about rebate reporting, okay? So so that's it. That's what I wanted to kind of talk about from an EDI perspective. If you need some additional information, as you see on the screen, Dennis Bruce at datamasons.com or DM Sales. If you want to get in touch with us, you can do that. And there's a little information there about Data Masons in general. But not only can we support your EDI system itself or replace it with for D365 or AX platform, but if you're a partner, we can support you in your sales cycle as well. Okay. Thanks, Jason.
All right. Thank you, Dennis. I am now going to hand things over to Gwen from Experlogix.
Thank you, Jason.
All right. Yep, we see your screen.
Okay, perfect. So thank you for joining us today. My name is Gwen Golden, and I've been with Experlogix for 10 years. However, the company was founded in 2002. We are certified for Microsoft Dynamics. We have about greater than 275 customers using Experlogix with Dynamics, and we are 100% focused on CPQ. So one of the things that you may be asking yourselves right away, what is CPQ and why do I need it? And so I'm just going to kind of talk a little bit about CPQ. The C stands for configure, where people need to be able to configure a quote by adding products or services and their related accessories in a guided selling user interface. The P stands for pricing, so we want to make sure that we're calculating the price based on unlimited variables And then we want to make sure that we're producing a professionally looking quote. So that ultimately, why do people need this? Well, their salespeople need to be able to sell products that can be produced. So for all of you manufacturers listening, we need to make sure that if we're quoting out a product, we need to make it. Experlogix is going to help every salesperson become an expert at selling their product.
Hey, Gwen, I think we may have lost your audio. I'm looking into it here.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Oh, you're back now. Yep.
Oh, I accidentally bumped my mute.
Okay.
So, sorry about that. So, industries that need CPQ. Experlogix has always done really well in manufacturing. However, any companies that do have complex quoting requirements, so meaning if there's a lot of different variations, variables that are going to determine how you need to put together that quote, that is something that Experlogix can help with. So in all of these blocks, you'll notice that every single company has their uniqueness in the way that they are putting together a quote. Now, what are companies out there using today to do their quoting? We talk to a lot of different companies, and we hear that many people are using Excel, or they're using Word documents, or perhaps they're doing it still with pen and paper, scratching it down on a napkin, if you will. Maybe they're using big product catalogs that they have to flip through. Or they've got an old system that maybe isn't even supported anymore. Or perhaps every time they need to put together a quote, they're going to the guy with the company that has all of the knowledge. Well, Johansson, he knows everything. But the problem with that is that how long does it take to get these quotes out? Is it even right? Does it make sense? Your manager may be saying, where's my forecast? So in all of these scenarios that I talked about, none of the quoting is in a solution. So what I'm going to be going through is I want to give you a good demonstration of Experlogix running directly out of finance and operations. We do also work with Dynamics AX, so we do give you a choice there. However, I've got an order queued up in finance and operations. We also do support using CPQ in the quoting functionality, but for today's time, we're just going to go ahead and configure a new order. Now, the idea here is that you can actually set up Experlogix to make it easy for the sales rep. So maybe the sales rep is new at selling your product, or maybe they're dealing with a customer that doesn't really know what they want. We're going to go ahead and help guide them through the process. So in an instance where a customer is interested in a truck, but they don't know what kind of truck they want, we're going to help them choose. And by default, Experlogix will load up all of the different trucks that we sell. However, we're going to ask them some qualifying questions that will help determine which would be the best truck to sell them. So if we choose a truck or a tractor, they need to use it for general freight. They're going to drive it mostly in flat area and less than 10,000. So now we can show 3 different trucks, or we might want to filter it by a characteristic. And based on that selection, we may get down to 1 truck, and anything else that you're changing during the process will potentially show some other trucks. This is called a guided selling approach. Many of our customers don't use a guided selling approach. They actually want to go directly from a base model and to be able to configure it to their needs. So once again, we want to keep everything to the sales rep, keep it at their fingertips. If they needed to pop out to a marketing brochure, we want to give them access to that. Maybe the customer is asking for some details that we don't have, and so we can go ahead and pop out of that. Maybe we want to take an interactive tour and kind of walk them through bits and pieces of the truck. So keeping everything at their fingertips. Now, another thing that we'll do is we load up any calculated field here at the bottom that's important for the sales rep to see. So if they're saying on top of the profitability or the weight of this truck, maybe they just want to quickly view everything that's been added to this configuration so far. So by default, it comes with a certain engine. It comes with a certain compressor and transmission. And based on the way that the customer wants to configure it, they can still be guided through the process. So let's say that the customer is interested in a more robust engine. So right now this is showing the engine that came by default, but they're going to select a different one. And now the sales rep can ask them, well, what's important to you? Are you looking at maybe a higher peak torque rating, maybe something greater than 2,000? You know, maybe we're going to go greater than 1,800. Oops, put it in the wrong column there. Greater than 1,800. We'll go ahead and put in that filter. We want to govern RPM of greater than 500. And now we want to sort it by price. And once they make one of those selections, we're now swapping out that engine. But as you do that, Experlogix actually did a compatibility check. And it said, well, the engine that was selected is different, not compatible with the transmission. And it actually puts it in error state. So now the sales rep knows they're talking to the customer and they say, we can't go with this transmission, but you could check this fuller, or there's a couple eaten items that you could choose. So they're going to make one of those selections, the error goes away, they can continue on. You can also do some upselling. So let's say that they wanted a larger sleeper. We're going to go ahead and tell them, hey, if you're getting a sleeper, we recommend a bunk and a refrigerator. If they think that's a good idea, we'll continue on. And now we can offer some other storage options for them. Maybe we're wanting to do a little bit of visualization to see it in a different color, maybe even see it with that particular cab. All in all, behind the scenes, Experlogix is creating a bill of material. And so what's happened is, based on all of the different configurations that have been done, Experlogix is saying, okay, to make this truck, because we're going to have to push this through to manufacturing, it's going to require a sleeper assembly with some components associated with that. It's got a cab assembly with some different components. We're going to paint it red. And so everything is in here exactly as we need it. At this point, we can go ahead and save this. Now, one of the things that Experlogix does allow you to do, you can save your work and continue on. You could even save this configuration and add another configuration. What's happening behind the scenes during the saving process, it's actually saving it to a couple different places. Because we started it from the order, it is populating some manufacturing pieces that are going to have to flow through. So I'm actually going to show you how that comes across. Give that another moment to refresh. Okay, and so let's go ahead and take a look at what's happened in the background. Number one, it's added in all of the different line items. Now I will take a little plug here. Avalara is an application that we also have an integration with. So for those of you that maybe had sales tax that were associated with each line item, rest assured that with Experlogix and Avalara, that's all going to work through appropriately. And what's happened down below, I'm going to go ahead and come into the line details. We're going to take a look at the product, and you'll notice down here, we've now created a BOM. And if we open that up, we're actually just going to look at it in the designer view. This is the exact same approach that I showed you in the BOM view. So now we've got our top layer, the sleeper assembly with its components, the cab assembly with its components, and the paint is going to be red. So what we've done is we're taking the stress away from the salesperson to be able to make it an easy process for them, have it be fast, have it integrate all the way into manufacturing. We know that this is going to be a valid configuration. Now what we can also do, I'm going to go ahead and I've got another order queued up here that we're just going to pull up for a moment and show you that you can have multiple configurations on an individual order. So the idea here is if a customer is potentially interested in multiples, we can go ahead and configure multiple trucks and then compare them side by side. So this is actually showing us from every category what's been selected and what hasn't. And if we just want to focus in on what's different about them, you can say, show me the differences. And now from here, we've got additional details that we can expand on to show them, details related to things like price. Okay, so in summary, We want to make sure that we are doing fast yet accurate quotes. Give the salesperson all the tools that they need to be able to do their quoting. Having it be an integrated solution. So now that we got all of our quotes and our orders and dynamics, we're going to have the forecasting capabilities. We're going to have it flow through all of the different manufacturing pieces, everything from lead to cash. We do work with the Dynamics 365 financial operations, as I just showed you today. However, we also support Dynamics AX 2012. And ultimately, we want to make sure that we have happy salespeople, and then you're going to have happy customers. So with that, Jason, I will turn it back over to you.
All right, thank you, Gwen, and thank you to all of our presenters here for taking us through the products. We are now going to open things up for Q&A in the time we have left. So a few questions have already come in. If you haven't entered yours yet, please do use the Q&A block to the right of the main presentation area, and we will get to them. So I will sort of rotate questions to different presenters to get started here. So the first one is for Kate and Avalara. The question is, we're not sure where we should be collecting tax. What should we do?
Okay, great. Yeah. So Avalara has a tax advisory services team that you can work with to assist you with a nexus study. You can also reach out to your own CPA and get a nexus study. Avalara's tax advisory services team can also help you register in the jurisdictions that you need to be registered in as well. And then if you need any voluntary disclosures or any enhanced back filing in cases where you should have been collecting and weren't, we can assist you with those as well.
All right, great. Next question I have here is for Alex for Fastpath. Do you normally see Fastpath being used before, during, or after implementation?
Yeah, that's a good question. Our solution can be used during all stages of the implementation, from using the security designer during your role design and development and configuration, to using access reviews and segregation duties to analyze your security once in place. So you can use it during the entire implementation process.
All right, excellent. A question for Dennis. I'm sort of reading through, so it's a bit of a longer one. It's saying we already have a solution in place for AX 2012 that we want to replace. Can we use your system while the other system is running and phase it in?
Okay. That's a pretty common question. The answer to that is yes, you can, because we reside outside. Whether the current system you're running is inside of AX, outside of AX, we can run in tandem with that and not bump into it. So we can handle transactions, integrate it, would not affect it, because those transactions would come in typically for either a particular trading partner or a series of trading partners, and we'd split the communications, because as long as you don't commingle them, we would split them, be able to process the transactions, have them integrate in and out of the AX platform without that affecting your current EDI solution, and then you could just move trading partners over one at a time, multiples at a time, or whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay, a question for Gwen. Is manufacturing a requirement to use Experlogix?
No, manufacturing is not a requirement. We do have companies, professional services companies. So if you think about configuring a service based on a lot of different criteria and still step the user through some product or service selection, that doesn't include manufacturing at all.
Okay, another question for Kate. Does Avalara handle any withholding taxes on either receivables or payables?
So we are mainly handling sales tax, use tax, as well as some fees, but we don't currently have withholding taxes like payroll taxes, I think is what you're referring to. So yeah, so we're mainly a sales tax in that solution.
All right. I have a couple questions here that have come in that are actually, I think both of them are for all four of you. So I'll start with the first one here and kind of let each of you have a chance to answer it. So the first one, in addition to Dynamics AX and 365 for finance and operations, which other Microsoft ERPs do you integrate with? And I know some of you touched on this, but why don't we just go all the way around? Kate, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So we work with all of the Dynamics solutions, so GP, AX, NAV, and all of D365, as well as CRM.
All
I
right.
think that covers it, yeah.
Great. Alex?
Yeah, so kind of the same thing. We support, obviously, AX and D365 FO, but we also do sales, business central, and then all of the on-prem solutions, GP, NAV, older versions of AX, SL, and then a number of other web ERPs as well.
Thank you. Dennis?
We do the full Dynamics suite, AX 365, both versions of 365 now. GP, NAV, we do not do SL. And then we also have built-in integration for a non-Dynamics platform called Macola. And there are a few others out there that, although we don't have an out-of-the-box solution, we could support in specific situations. But from an out-of-the-box integration support, it's really the Dynamics brand.
All right, great. And Gwen?
Pretty much the same here. Support GP Nav, AX, and Business Central is due to be released soon. We do support for on-premise and online.
All right, great. And just as a note, if you looked away from the screen, I have contact emails up for all of our presenters today, if you want to take note of those. And another question for all of you, asking to elaborate on licensing for your products. And maybe we can just go around once more on that. So Kate, can you add anything on that?
Yeah, in relation to pricing, so Avalara's pricing is based on volume. So the volume of transactions you use for AvaTax, the number of tax returns you're going to be filing or having us file on your behalf, or the number of exemption certificates we manage. So we grow with you. So we support anything from a small single state business all the way up through global enterprise level companies.
All right, great. Dennis, since you're next on my list here.
Yep. Yeah, so our pricing is, or our licensing, I should say, is really built around the number of trading partners that you have and the corresponding documents that you will integrate either into the ERP platform or out. We provide a couple of different models. We provide a perpetual model and also a subscription model as well.
All right, Alex.
Yeah, for Fastpath, we use a subscription model, and we look at the number of users you have in whatever system you're trying to audit. So depending on how many D3FO users you have, we would take that and look at the licensing types of those, and then that would be how we do for Fastpath. I will also say that we do provide free support along with that, so it's an additional cost.
All right, and Gwen.
We do offer a named user license, so for anybody that does need to go in and do a quote or order configuration, they would need a license for that, but it can be an on-premise or online, so subscription-based pricing or buy it and own it type licensing. And then we do have a license for a portal license user, and that's if you're wanting to extend it outside of your organization to dealers, customers, that type of, it's just called a portal license.
All right, excellent. Well, we are nearing the top of the hour here. I'm going to make a final call for any remaining questions that you've been holding on to. I want to remind everyone we do have a survey that will pop up after you depart today. Any feedback you can give us on today's event, the format, the experience is greatly appreciated. I also want to just thank all four of our presenters for taking the time and doing a great job. Kate, Dennis, Alex, Gwen, thank you all so much for joining today. We're also recording today's event, so please look for an update on that coming very soon. With that, I think this is the time to wrap up. So have a great day, everybody, and thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.